Back in the early 2000s to around 2010, when you were shopping for a premium mid-size SUV, your choices were either a Mitsubishi Pajero, a Toyota Land Cruiser Prado, or the Ford Explorer that I have here behind me. Although the Ford Explorer is a common SUV in the States, here in tropical Philippines, the Ford Explorer is a car that you drive when you have made it, at least to the senior vice president level of your company. But with today's plethora of choices when it comes to premium luxury mid-size SUVs, with some offering the same level of tech and comfort as the Ford Explorer, as well as a frugal diesel engine, is the Ford Explorer still a relevant choice nowadays? Well, that's what we're here to find out, where we're going to do a review of this Ford Explorer and do a drive impression as well. Let's do this! What I have here is a 2017 Ford Explorer Limited with an EcoBoost engine. Now, I borrowed this Explorer from a viewer here in Parañaque, so special thanks to you, you know who you are. Anyway, this 5th generation Ford Explorer has been in the Philippines since 2012, and throughout its lifetime here, it has seen little changes in terms of styling. But they've updated some bits here and there, but overall, the look of this Ford Explorer remains the same as when it started in its 5th generation. We have two types of Ford Explorers here in the Philippines, at least for the 4-cylinder EcoBoost variant. We have the Sport Edition, which features a lot of blacked out trimmings, which belies its sporty nature, and we have the limited variant here, which has more chrome around the vehicle. You have your chromed out front grille, and you also have your chromed out door handles, which tells you that that Explorer is a limited variant. Now, looking at the styling of the Ford Explorer, it is unmistakably inspired by the Range Rover. In fact, if you will look at its dimensions and the way that Ford has styled this Explorer, you could easily mistake it for its European cousin. And this is no coincidence, and I'm saying it's the European cousin because for quite a while before Tata Motors bought Land Rover was owned by Ford Motor Company. So that explains why the Explorer and the Range Rover, at least the Range Rover Sport, shares the same type of body styling with each other. It's not a coincidence. Now, given the sheer size and length of the hood of the Explorer, you would expect that most drivers, especially those smaller drivers, just like me, I'm 5'6", would have a difficult time estimating the edge of your hood and your bumper, and that might result in some fender benders or some scrapes with your Explorer's front bumper. So Ford thought about it and equipped the Ford Explorer with not just a backing up camera, but they put in also a front camera to help you estimate the distance of your front bumper to whatever is in front of it. It's a pretty good way of ensuring that your Ford Explorer will not suffer a bum nose, given the fact that it's got such a huge hood. Now, unlike the previous generation Explorers, which feature a truck-based chassis, this 5th generation Explorer now comes with a unibody chassis that makes it more comfortable, roomier, and more spacious inside, and more fuel efficient at the same time. How fuel efficient is this? Well, the Ford Explorer can do 7.5 kilometers per liter in city driving and around 12 kilometers per liter in highway driving here in the Philippines. Now, the Ford Explorer is a large SUV. At least in the Philippines and in Philippine roads, it is already considered a large SUV. And a large SUV requires large wheels. And the Ford Explorer has the same. You see, the stock wheels of the Explorer are 20-inch wheels, which fills the wheel well quite nicely. And in this example, you could see that this Explorer already sports aftermarket wheels, but the owner has decided to keep the same size at 20 inches, but he decided to equip the tires with Toyo Open Country off-roading tires. Now, this setup, well, pretty much gives this Explorer a more rugged look, taking it away from its more refined executive look. Moving on to the rear of the Ford Explorer, you have your backing up camera right here. So you have a front camera and you have a backing up camera as well. You also got your dual tailpipes. These are functional tailpipes, so it belies also the sporty nature of the Ford Explorer. Now, given in the premium luxury SUV segment that the Ford Explorer is in, it also comes with a power liftgate. And when you open the liftgate, you will note that this is a 7-seater 3-row SUV. Now, even with the third row up, you've got a ton of space that can be found here behind the third row. You've got 21 cubic feet of trunk space. And if you need more space, all you need to do is go over to these array of buttons right here, and you can press, and you have these automated power seats that just fold down by itself, and you can stow away your seats with another press of a button. No more tugging around with straps and fiddling around with other stuff. All you need to do is press those buttons, and you now have a fully flat folded third row that gives you now around 43 cubic feet of trunk space. Looking at this trunk space, you could see that it has tons of space. In fact, this could pretty much be a class leader when it comes to mid-size SUVs and trunk space. It's 43.9 cubic feet. You could pretty much fit a washing machine or even a large TV here, or even bikes even. So this is an enormous amount of trunk space. Now, if you would have some passengers who would come in and sit on the third row, it's just a matter of pressing buttons again here at the side. Just press the normal button and the seats automatically opens up for you with no hassles at all. Check it out. This 2017 Ford Explorer Limited is powered by a 2.3-liter inline-4 turbocharged EcoBoost engine. Now, you might think, what, it's just a 4-cylinder? Isn't that such a tiny engine for such a huge car? Well, guess what? Ford's EcoBoost engine, at least the one in the Explorer, can churn out 270 horses and 408 Newton meters of torque. Now, that's a decent amount of pulling power and horsepower at the same time for Philippine roads, because we don't really have wide open freeways and highways here. Now, this Explorer Limited is also in a front-wheel drive configuration, because the all-wheel drive is reserved for the top-of-the-line variant, which also has the V6 engine. If there is an ace that the Ford Explorer has over its premium mid-size crossover SUV competitors, that would be space. You see, given the size of the body of the Explorer, you would now come to expect that the inside would also be cavernous, and you will not be disappointed. I'm seated right here in the second row seat, and as you can see, the driver's seat is adjusted to somebody of my height. I'm 5'6", and I've got tons of leg room and knee room right here. And there is absolutely no way you will feel claustrophobic in this Explorer Limited, because aside from having this large windows, you also have a panoramic glass sunroof that extends all the way to the second row seats of the Explorer. So this gives you that wide open, airy feel while you are being driven around at the second row of your Explorer. Now, there are a lot of creature comforts that can be found here at the second row. You've got your aircon vents right here near your head, just to make sure that it keeps you cool or warm depending on where you are. You also have your reading lights and your coat hangers even here on the roof. You've got your own charging ports here in the center console, and you also have your controls for your climate control as well. One notable fun fact about the Ford Explorer is the rear window. You see, in most SUVs and cars nowadays, when you open the rear window, it normally stops at around this level because of the shape of the door. You see, the glass would not be able to go fully into the door because of, well, a smaller shape or a tinier door, but not for the case of the Explorer. You see, the size of the door, it's humongous, allows the window to retract all the way into the door, thus giving you a wide open window when your glass is rolled down. So that is something that the Ford Explorer can be proud of. The windows at the rear go all the way inside the door. Now, since this is a 3-row 7-seater SUV, I'm going to step into the third row just to see how roomy it is and if the people who will ride with you in the third row would feel bad about you putting them there. Let's go inside. Alright, so now I'm at the third row of the Ford Explorer, and wow, this place is roomy enough for somebody like me. I'm 5'6", and there's enough leg room, and I don't find my knees bunch up towards my chest. It's not tight at all. It doesn't feel claustrophobic as well. And the good thing about what Ford did with the third row of the Explorer is they also included some aircon vents here at the roof area, and you also have a map light, a dome light right here in the third row. So the third row passengers are cocooned in nice comfort. You've got nice leather seats here at the third row. You've got cup holders as well, and some cubbies where you can park some of your stuff while you're in the third row of the Explorer. So this is a perfectly livable space to be in, even in a long trip. Moving on to the interior of the Explorer. The first thing you'll note is you'll be greeted by power seats, power adjustment seats. These are 10-way power adjustment seats for the driver's side, and for the passenger side you have power adjustment as well. I believe these are 6-way power adjustment seats for the front passenger. So you've got power seats up front for both driver and passenger. Now, seated inside the Ford Explorer, you will be greeted by an LCD screen both on the left and right side of the speedometer. You've got a digital tachometer display on the left and your information screen on the right, and then the usual fuel gauge and all that. Now, looking at the infotainment system, this is the updated Sync 3, Ford Sync 3 system, and you've got your Sony system down here at the bottom. You've got more buttons here, which means that this is a little bit simpler versus the previous generation Ford Sync. You've got your camera button right there, which gives you a view of your front camera while you're in park, but if you shift it to reverse, then you will change to the rear camera at the back. Now, for this Ford Explorer, you have a couple of ways of adjusting your climate control. You've got your regular buttons right here found at the bottom, and these are physical buttons, and at the same time you can also change your climate control on the infotainment screen as well. So you've got these redundant choices for your climate control. That's pretty good. At least if you don't want to fiddle with your touchscreen, then you can always go down to the buttons below. So the dashboard layout of the Ford Explorer is pretty functional. It's decent. It belies that it's an executive SUV rather than a Spartan rugged SUV that it used to be from the previous generations. So with Ford's penchant for automated everything, they also decided to automate the adjustment of your steering wheel. You see, we're now here at the side of the steering wheel, and you have this 4-way directional button, and this will help you adjust down, forward, back, and up for your steering wheel. So instead of the usual manual lever, you have that 4-way directional button for automated steering wheel adjustment. So now that I've shown you the features and the fun facts of the Ford Explorer, it's now time to take her out for a drive just to see how it behaves on the road. So let's go for that drive right now. Alright, so now we're driving the Explorer, and the first thing that I note is just how big this car is. I mean, wow. The windshield is sharply slanted, which gives you that feeling that you're piloting a spaceship rather than an SUV. But one thing that I could say is that despite its heft, despite its size, the Explorer is pretty light to drive. I mean, we're just at parking lot speeds now, but I could feel the lightness of the steering wheel. Probably because it's an electric power assisted steering wheel, so that helps with carrying the heft of the Explorer. I also now get why Ford decided to equip this Explorer with a front camera, because with a sloped, raked back windshield and that long hood in front of me, I mean, even with this tall riding seating position, I would have a difficult time gauging the distance of the front bumper. So I could just imagine parking this in a parking lot, and wow, I would probably need that front camera indeed to make sure that I don't hit the front bumper on the parking wall. Now, given that the Explorer is meant for American-sized drivers and passengers, the space that you can find here, the shoulder room, the head room, pretty much the entire cabin is humongous. I've got a lot of elbow space and shoulder space right here beside me, since I am of Asian build. So this car is simply cavernous in terms of interior space and comfort. The AC is quite cold, it's comfortable. I mean, this is a pretty soft SUV, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Soft in terms of comfort, in terms of luxury. I mean, if you don't watch it, you might just fall asleep driving this car. It's so light, it's so effortless to drive, and the acceleration is pretty good. And so that is the 2017 Ford Explorer Limited that we have here in the Philippines. It may be powered by a small engine, well, for its body size, but this engine can pull and pull hard. And not only can it pull hard, it pulls in a way that gives you such a smooth acceleration that you don't feel like you're driving a rugged SUV. Rather, it feels more like driving a supersized executive sedan. Unfortunately, competition is fast catching up on this Ford Explorer, with Korean and Japanese brands churning out premium mid-size SUVs with the same level of comfort, tech, and power, at the same time diesel engine options. This 5th generation Ford Explorer will have a tough time convincing buyers to go for it rather than the competition. However, the Explorer does have one ace up its sleeve, and that is the cavernous interior space that can be had with the Ford Explorer. Something that you couldn't say for the competition, whether it's a Korean or a Japanese brand. So if you're looking for an executive SUV that has a full-size interior dimension and that intimidating factor while on the roads of narrow Manila streets, well, this Ford Explorer is still a compelling car to put on your car shopping list. Once again, thank you for watching one of my car reviews. If you like this review, please subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, comment below if you think Ford Philippines should start bringing in the 6th generation Explorer once it becomes available. Anyway, I do hope you subscribe to my channel. I upload videos once a week, car reviews and all that stuff, and I'll make it worth your while by subscribing to Reagan's Rides. Once again, this is Reagan, and I'll see you again in the next video. Bye-bye.